Ever wondered what chaos erupts when a seemingly trustworthy nanny slips into a suburban home with sinister intentions? This remake of The Hand That Rocks the Cradle delivers a gripping psychological thriller that might leave you double-checking your own household hires. Because trust, once shattered, is hard to rebuild. Directed by Michelle Garza Cervera, the film stars Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Caitlin Morales, a polished suburban mother who hires a new nanny named Polly Murphy, played by Maika Monroe. But as the story unfolds, Caitlin uncovers a chilling truth. Polly isn't the innocent caregiver she pretends to be, setting off a web of manipulation and deceit that threatens to unravel the family's fragile balance. If you're new to thrillers like this, think of it as a modern twist on classic stories where appearances deceive, much like in Hitchcock's Rebecca, where a new wife grapples with hidden family secrets. Here, the danger comes from within the home itself. But here's where it gets controversial. Is this remake a faithful update or a risky gamble that strays too far from its roots? Many fans cherish the 1992 original, famously anchored by Rebecca De Mornay's unforgettable turn as the vengeful nanny, a performance that set the standard for "you wronged me" villains in cinema. It's surprising it took over 3 decades for a reboot, and why the core idea of a woman infiltrating another's life to dismantle it remains. The filmmakers have shaken things up significantly. Personally, I admired the original's tension but never dubbed it a masterpiece, and I found the changes in this version refreshing, adding layers that make it feel like a fresh take rather than a carbon copy. The plot centers on Caitlin, a dedicated young mum, who welcomes Polly into her upscale home to help manage her family. What starts innocently spirals into manipulation as Polly skillfully wedges herself between Caitlin and her loved ones, turning Caitlin into a paranoid wreck while positioning herself as the ideal replacement. Caitlin's husband, portrayed by Raul Castillo, comes across as somewhat detached and dismissive, too eager to brush off his wife's concerns as mere overreactions, a classic storytelling device that heightens the isolation. Their daughter, craving a more lenient parent figure, bonds with Polly right away, complicating the dynamics further and forcing Caitlin to fight for her place in her own life. And this is the part most people miss. The film's true strength lies in its stellar acting, which elevates the material beyond simple scares. Maika Monroe masterfully captures Polly's duality, flipping from charming and sweet to unhinged menace in the blink of an eye. It's exhilarating to see her embrace the villainous role after often playing sympathetic characters, like in It Follows. For beginners diving into horror, this showcases how great actors can convey inner turmoil without relying on overt jumps, building suspense through subtle glances and body language. Mary Elizabeth Winstead shines as Caitlin, navigating the "is this real or am I losing it?" Character with nuance, keeping viewers on edge without going overboard into melodrama. Their head-to-head confrontations are electric, pitting 2 powerhouse actresses from the genre, Winstead from Birds of Prey and Monroe from The Guest, against each other in a psychological battle that feels like a treat for fans. If only the film leaned harder into these duels, it could have been even tighter. That said, I have to point out a controversial angle. Does the movie dilute its power by dipping into generic horror elements? Narratively, it occasionally stumbles into familiar traps, like predictable jump scares or cliched chases, rather than doubling down on the psychological depth that makes the performances pop. For instance, the subplot involving Martin Starr's character introduces unnecessary complications that strip away some of the story's ambiguity. Did it really need that twist? Or could it have stayed focused on the core mother-nanny rivalry? And while the cinematography is a highlight, with clever use of windows and mirrors to symbolize deception and reflection, think of how glass surfaces in thrillers often represent hidden truths, mirroring characters' facades. The pacing can feel sluggish, as a slow burn, meaning the tension builds gradually, not in explosive bursts, which might frustrate those craving constant action. The ending, too, ends on a bizarre note, with a tacked-on stinger that feels like an afterthought, echoing misguided horror trends that prioritize shock over substance. Despite these hiccups, I thoroughly enjoyed The Hand That Rocks the Cradle. It's an over-the-top, yet grounded exploration of female rivalry and domestic sabotage, reminding us that sometimes the biggest threats lurk in the everyday. Monroe and Winstead deliver compelling performances, with Monroe's role stealing the show through its wild swings, though both bring magnetic intrigue to every scene. The supporting cast could have been beefed up for more depth, like giving the husband more layers to avoid feeling like a caricature. But for those tuning in for the clash between these underrated talents, it's a satisfying ride. Did the studio push for more horror to appeal to broader audiences, at the expense of the film's psychological edge? It's a debate worth having. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle is set to stream on Hulu, starting October 22nd, 2025. I give it a solid 7 out of 10. What do you think? Does this remake honour the original while innovating enough to stand on its own? Are the added horror tropes a smart choice or a distraction? And who's your pick for the standout performance? Drop your opinions in the comments. I'd love to hear if you agree, disagree, or see a controversial twist I missed.